Hi, and welcome to the third episode of Challenge to Champion. Today, I'm really excited because I just had an amazing podcast with Dane Viljoen. He is the co-founder of Troygold, and we had an amazing conversation about materialism, why gold is better than paper currency, facing challenges in life, what are the challenges that he has faced and how he has overcome them, and really a lot more. So please stay tuned for this episode. Mr. Dane Viljoen, I'm very pleased to have you as a guest. My aim with this podcast is to bring inspirational and interesting people to have conversations with them. This is just actually a hack because I want to spend some time with you. So I think this is a good way. It's a good excuse, right?
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's a big pleasure, and I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. Can you give me a bit of a summarization of who's Dane? What does Dane do? I know about Troygold, which you're a co-founder of. We're going to get a bit deeper into that in a second. But just give us a bit of a summarization of who is Dane Viljoen.
Dane, all right. Well, I think how far back we go. I know there's that story. No, there's that story about the first kid that said he's an Afrikaner in the Cape Colony, where they tried to lash him, and he said something like "Ich bin an Afrikaner," right? And no, but I'm a born and bred Pretorian. So I grew up in Pretoria. And I'll skip through the schools and sort of my I come from Afrikaans upbringing, right?
Boys High. If you were Affies,
Boys High. My dad was an Affies.
You would have had to mention it.
Yeah,
I saw you. No, it's just in the English school.
So my dad, my mom's side comes from the Northern Cape. We were farmers, right? Dutch genes, vissers, and my dad's side French Huguenot. So the Afrikaans Viljoen, hence the Viljoen. I'm not, you know my brother. He's a bit darker with the dark hair.
Yeah.
I got more the Dutch side. Dad was an Affies, and he put us into Boys Eye. He said, he wanted us to go to the US. He wanted us to do business, and he said, he struggled with English. So it was a big thing in our family. My grandfather was a Supreme Court judge, broederbonder. Great man, but staunch Afrikaner. Afrikaner nationalism. And my dad was this rebel that believed in free markets and freedom, individual liberties, civil liberties, non-oppression, people, having the right, just like the maxim of the American Constitution, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so he was quite a rebel, and he had this judge as a father, also an imposing man. So they were two great men. Anyway, I'm digressing there, but. So he decided to put me into Boys High, and I think I was definitely indoctrinated with the principles of freedom, and also trying to launch big ships. I think my dad always taught me, if you want to launch big ships, go where the water's deep. So grew up here, went to Boys High, had amazing upbringing, family whose currency was all love, and I can't thank them enough for that. And so I'd like to think I was well-rounded when I got out, and I was always enamored with finance and the world of finance. I read a lot of Forbes and Fortunes when I was young, but those magazines. But I never knew what that was. And then my dad, when I was 12 years old, he took me to a stockbroker. And back in those days, you had like a little JSC handbook. Literally, you found a company and it had just a summary on one page. It was really small, all its financials and what it does. And it was a bit like throwing darts at that stage for me. But I had through my father. I found interest through my father. I had a bit of money to invest, and I started with stock. So naturally,
at what age was that?
It was about 12, 13. Yeah.
Started to invest.
Yeah.
Goodness.
I lost a lot of money as well, but I think back. I think I made some money as well, but I also learned. I learned a lot. But I can't recall that much about those investment years. But I started to understand business. I liked business, You know, so as any kid would, small kid that's enamored with finance, I read about Wall Street and I wanted to go to the US. So
let me just intervene for a second. I know you're a very athletic guy, but when you speak about your upbringing, you don't mention any of that. You mention the business side there, and that is interesting to me because I didn't know that it was so skewed or lopsided towards that side. Mine was totally opposite.
it was a bit. I think so. Well, I think my family, my brother and my dad, they're all athletic guys. My grandfathers, they were all strong, powerful athletic guys. I think it was a lifestyle for us. I think it was I think sport, specifically. I think for me, athletics. I think it was always it was a non-negotiable, right? I think I used to listen to how they trained back in the day. So yeah, I think I would have. I think there were, and we'll talk about this a bit later. I think with my personal challenges, I think I didn't excel in sport as much as I should have because I made I think I think you always say you want to sort of correct that in the next generation, hopefully with your kids. I think if I had a bit more doggedness, I think I would have done a lot better in my sport. But nonetheless. I did track and field in the US when I got to NYU as well, and I was always a sporty guy. So, but I think more of my drive came from not wanting to be a sportsman, but wanting to do business. Wanting to be a captain of a ship. I think back in the day, I think we always get influenced by our fathers, and I remember seeing Aristotle Onassis and Mike Milken and those sorts of photos of these guys that had shipping empires, and Donald Trump with the big world stuff. So that enthralled me, and I think that's what pulled me that way. But long story short, I think I got lucky. I wrote an exam, got lucky to SATs, go to the States. I studied in New York around the time, and at that time it was. I'm not going to give away my age, but around
the time. Was this when you were 19?
Yeah, about 19 up, New York University, they had a business school, Stern School of Business, and I got this chance to go there, and based off of my SAT results, and it was just never been to New York before. Just got on a plane. I got a sort of a scholarship, student loan, and it was around the time of the financial crisis. So I actually saw at that stage those quantitative easing. Money printing policies that started to bring in every classroom we had a debate around. I think at that stage, you had equity markets really tumble, so everybody was spinning. There were those rallies in the streets around ending the Fed, the right, people trying to go up against the 1%. So had an amazing journey there. Post that, came back, worked for.
How long was that?
It was about 3.5 years. Yeah. And but my stint in the US was amazing. I think New York is a very artificial place. Anyway, just sort of to tell the story, came back, worked for an American bank in Johannesburg, doing mergers and acquisitions, so into the belly of the beast in finance. And I felt I wanted to be an investment banker for many years, growing up. And when I finally started interning as one, I quickly realized,
it's not what you thought.
It's not, it's not what I thought. I think it's a fantastic career. What I think it was counter to my personal beliefs and values around money, around banking, around how banking systems should work, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to create something myself with my brother. I think, he was also an investment banker, and so we sort of set out. And quite frankly, I wanted to become rich. We come from humble beginnings, a lot of love, but humble beginnings, and I wanted to be able to care for the people I love. So that was my goal, was to get rich. And we started I had a passion for gold, for sound money, for basically gold-based banking, and we'll talk about it in a second. But So we started, my brother and I started in production actually. So we
Production of gold.
production of gold. So we sort of reworked a lot of the old gold dumps in the Westwits region, specifically Troygold side.
Can you tell people
what that entails?
Yeah, and why that would make sense? Because I know the story. I know why you did it, and because it's basically mines that were already mined.
Yeah. So I mean, in the bank, I focused on resources. I sort of got in there because I knew a bit about the gold mines. It got me into my interview process because I read up a lot about it. And so we advised a lot of the listed gold mines in South Africa. So Sibanye, Anglo Gold, Harmony, that kind of thing. Got to know the CEOs, got to know the guys, and we quickly saw that there's obviously a need for more tonnage, more production going into these plants, the mines plants. In South Africa, we used to produce a ton of gold per month per mine. These big mines. Eskom power was cheap, labor was cheap back in the day, and then as our power crisis started and our unions garnered more power, needed more money, wanted more money, you sort of saw the production levels dwindle. We were the biggest producer in the world globally at one stage in the 70s and 80s, and we've been pushed down to, I think, the 8th biggest producer. So our mines started producing, the big mines, 400, 500 kilos a month, which is almost half. So they needed more gold-bearing material, really. And back in the day, the old timers would mine stuff that was 5 grams and up, really good gold. And so
the rest
they would literally chuck on a dump. And sometimes the inefficiency in the plants as tailings, right? So it could be quasi rock dumps, it could be tailings dumps, but and the efficiency of those plants weren't that big at that stage either. You pretty much going back to the 1940s actually. And so a lot of these dumps are effectively movable assets sitting on top of the ground. And we figured that if we could monetize those, figure out the gold in it, and literally track it to some of the big mines and give it to them, they'd have more tonnage. And so we got out of banking. We needed, we finally found. That's how we got our start. We finally found this older guy who had bought a tailings dump from Goldfield, I think in '93. And we went to him, and he was making road aggregates for it. And we went to him and we said, listen, we want to win the gold and monetize the gold in your dump. We'll buy your dump from you. We'll buy this gold dump. And how we got started, I think he said, sure, you can buy it per ton, but we need you to invest in a weighbridge, something that you could count, yes, the weight of the trucks going out of it. And so we needed, I think at that stage, it was like 200,000 rand to put this thing in. Didn't have it. I think my grandfather passed away, had given me an old SE Mercedes-Benz, and we would drive out there with that, sandwiches and a little blicky, that type of thing, and try and negotiate this deal with this older guy. And he was also a profound, formidable guy. I learned a lot from him, but at the end of the day, we said, we called up some of our college buddies in America, New York, and I think at the institution we were at, those were, I guess, the wealthier 1% of America, yes. And they loved the idea of a gold production venture in Africa, and so they gave us that startup capital, and that was sort of
goodness. So that was how you raised the money.
That was the first thing, and that was the first bit. We put it in there and worked day and night. Got the contract to supply it to a mine. And at that stage, we had to pay everything on site within 3 weeks, of invoice. I think we asked the mine, listen, you got to pay us within 2 weeks, and so we sort of shuttled the cash flows, and that's how we started. So we did 6 years building a gold production company, and the goal was to get the gold and then keep it in South Africa. And that way we could stick it inside. What we wanted to do was build a gold bank, like banking used to be, like a standard bank used to be when it first started, where you can do everything.
Currency backed buy physical gold.
Yeah, everything that you can do today with an FNB or an ABSA, you could do with your gold. And so that was the first part, get the gold. And then the second part would be to build the digital bank side of it. So did that for 6 years.
And that's what you did?
Well, we started in production, and I think we built a mining company in 6 years, and it was fantastic. I think I'll talk about some of the challenges later, but we ended up buying a gold mine called Troygold, getting it back into production. We ended up selling our shares in 2017, learned a lot from that, ordeal, but really proud of what we did. We took something that was in liquidation and had been ravaged by
learned some
bad actors, and we brought it back up. I think they're producing 100 kilos a month today. It employs a lot of people. I think it's valued close to or over R1 billion. So
at the moment, is it still running?
It's producing about 100 kilos of gold today. So so it's good stuff. I mean, we had a good part in it. And then
you're not part of this still at the moment.
No. So we're not part of that. I think in 2018 we said. I think mining in South Africa and the experience we went through with some of our partners was sort of a bit of a rite of passage about learning about business and the tough side of it. And when there's value on the table, what happens to the people around the table? But I think we learned a lot, and we try to take those lessons into trying to actually build the bank, which was in 2018, 2019 we started Troygold, which is the fintech. The gold fintech neobank, and so at the moment I am it's 4 or 5 years into the journey of building a startup, and really enjoying it. Finally learning. I think every new skill, everything you embark on you learn different levels of learnings and compounding wisdom to get to mastery. And so it's almost like the more you learn, the more you realize what you don't know. So yes, in short and sweet, I think I'm at heart I'm a Pretoria boy, and I think I've grown up a lot, and trying to take this startup globally at the moment.
That is really that's a really cool story. I didn't know a lot of those things about you, and so I think that was good for me as well, just on a personal level. I think everyone can hear this, but you're really passionate about the gold. Can you give me an elevator pitch of why gold is important? Why are you so passionate?
I think I should probably I mean, there are two parts to it, right? I think the one is philosophical. I don't get I try from a philosophical perspective, right? Why I'm passionate about gold, right? Is in economics there was a guy called Ludwig von Mises, and he had this mantra. And so I'm a student of economics. I studied finance and economics, and his mantra was "Tuna sid mali." It's like a Latin phrase, and it comes from Virgil's Aeneid, where it basically says, "Do not let evil prevail, but stand ever more boldly against it." So he took that as sort of his binding principle in life, and I was really taken by that. And I think from a young age, that combined with I believe in God, and I think in Jeremiah it says he talks about being upright, is doing honest trade and seeking truth. So that sort of those two principles were sort of my mantras throughout life when I was younger. When I just really started really getting something. Learning about life, right? We're sort of lofty, don't know a thing, but until we get to probably at the age of 25. And I think so that side, I was always determined to seek truth and stand up against evil, and do something good for the world. And I saw that in my grandparents, my grandfathers, my brother, and my father. They were better men than me, and they were great men. And they wrote some great stories. Their lives are great stories, and I wanted to make them proud, right? So I felt what is the best way for me to give something of the world that if I didn't have any fear or didn't care about my own well-being, what could I do to make the world a better place? And what did I have unique knowledge of? So, seeing these things, seeing New York, learning about economics, learning about economic history, I learned about the way that financial markets are set up. And why I'm passionate about gold more practically is because gold is the only solution to protecting yourself and your money against modern day slavery, right? I'll explain it. I'll explain it briefly, right? So this is gold, right? 100 grams a piece, and this is a South African Reserve Bank note, right? A piece of paper, currency, and gold. Now, we toil every month, and we build things and we produce things, whether it's goods or services. We put ourselves to go after, and you want to get paid for that, right? So you get paid, you produce value, you get given value, right? So, and then you have some operating expenses, so you'll pay for things, your house, your rent, your car, etc. And then you've got money left over. Well, you've got savings, right? You've got value that's left over. And if I tell you, okay, you have to store that money in either this, okay, a piece of paper, or this. I want to hand it to you, and I want to hand it to you. I want to ask you, all right, so if you want to, which one would you rather want? Would you rather want that, or would you rather want that?
Well, knowing what I know this is the right answer. 100%.
Okay.
100%.
So we live in a time, so back to modern debt slavery, right? So gold is real money, right? And I'll break it down into two things: money and real.
Yeah. Why does this have value?
Yes.
Rather than this.
Okay. So I'll break it down. Gold is real money, okay, and everything else is credit. Okay, is an IOU, a piece of IOU paper, right?
Agreement.
Okay, so I'm going to break it down into money and real. Okay, when I say money, it has to be something that we can use as a medium of exchange. As a unit of account, we can measure things, and then it's got to be a store of value. So it's got to store value across time. You need to your value right now that you've produced and that you get paid for. You need to be able to transfer it to your children at some stage. Okay, so that's what a money is. Now, real being, is it not an IOU? Is it not taking risk, counterparty risk, that somebody has to pay you? Okay. Now, JP Morgan said gold is money, everything else is credit. Okay, so this is currency, this is money. This currency, what it does is, if we take a South African rand, if you store your value in this piece of paper, okay, it loses. It's a bucket with a hole in it. It loses money. Okay, in South African terms, this loses value 0.00002% per second. So you keep holding it, and it's losing money. It's extracting value out. It's extracting your hard-earned value that you've worked for, right? And secondly, when you deposit this into a bank, all right, it doesn't become your value or your money anymore. Your bank deposit is an IOU. The bank owes you the money, but it becomes their money. So we work today, we work and we toil and we produce goods and services. And in return, we get a piece of paper with an animal's head on it that loses value constantly. And in South African terms, it ranges between 6 and 22% per year annually, right?
What is that due to?
Okay, and
that's a couple just on
and that's because the issuer of this note, and this is a note, it's an IOU note as well, it's not money, prints more of it every single day. The South African Reserve Bank, they keep printing more of them, and more of these are chasing a fixed amount of goods and services in an economy. So the prices of everything goes up, right? So if I'm holding one of them and I keep producing, and they keep producing more and more of them every second, this specific one is losing its value, right? And inflation. So that's the inflationary side of it. So if you have 10,000 rand today, okay, and if you look at historicals, in 10 years' time, it's worth 5,540 Rand. In 20 years' time, it's worth about 3,000 Rands worth of value. Okay, so you're going backwards.
So in 10 years, you're losing half the value.
Half. In 20 years, you're losing
70%.
70%. And the South African Rand has lost 99.9% of its value since it's been issued. So you've got a bucket of water that loses water A. Then you put it into an institution like a bank, and it doesn't become yours anymore. Your value becomes the bank's. It's an IOU. Yes, we believe that the big banks are going to pay us when we ask them for it. So we trust them. So gold then, okay, when I say it's real, it is the only asset or money that is not simultaneously another person's liability or IOU. When I own gold, okay, it's real value sitting there. It's not a bank promising me to pay me value at some stage, or a debt agreement or stocks that they promise to pay me dividends on. This is real value.
What gives it value?
Right. And it doesn't devalue like the Rand. So it holds its purchasing power. Okay. So I think I'm gonna explain as to sort of why it's got value, which is a great question. So but why I'm passionate about it is just before I jump to that, why I'm passionate about it is that we keep earning, and our earnings that we're experiencing in the last, especially since the financial crisis of 2007, 2008, our earnings do not keep track at the rate that value is being taken from us. Okay, inflation. And what happens then is we start taking on debt, right? Now, when you take on debt, right, and the world now is just, because you can't make ends meet, because people struggle to make ends meet, they take on debt. So we take on debt, and debt is, you're consuming now what you have to produce in the future. All right? So you still have to work for that value, but you're consuming it now. So what debt does is it makes you a serf or a slave. Right? Now, in the feudal system, it means you're on a treadmill, and you're working just to repay old debts, old consumption. Right? So today we take on debt to consume. We take on debt, we take on unsecured debt, which means we have to keep producing in the future. And Warren Buffett said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. So you're working against compound interest. Your bones, your muscles, your energy, you're working against compound interest. It's tough to overcome that. So what happens is, we don't need chains today to enslave people. In the feudal system, we need debt. And today, the biggest issue that I have found in the monetary system and financial system, and what I can try to change, is a system that's not based on debt, right? But to get people to save in real money, and to store their purchasing power, right? Because this system keeps us enslaved like serfs. Like in the feudal system, you had the king, you had his fiefs, and you would effectively work in, because you just rented land as a peasant from the local fief, and you were in debt bondage and indentured servitude. So you worked just to repay old debts, right? And I think today what we have is a system of paper money that has enslaved people, right? And it's made us peasants. It's made us serfs, actually is the right term. And so the way to break out of that, and why I'm passionate about it, it's a long one, is that gold is the answer to escape modern day slavery or debt slavery, right? That was a long-winded answer.
No, but that is a proper answer. As you were explaining that to me, I thought about the concept of this having value due to a fact that this doesn't have something.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that this paper receipt is needed for this value to grow at the rate that it grows? And is there a bit of a synergy between them?
Well,
if you take this one away and everything goes to gold,
yeah,
will gold still grow and not lose its value according to what you're able to get for that value?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a great question. That's effectively you're asking. Okay, so these are competing monies, right? Okay, and you're asking, will the purchasing power still be stable if there was only this as money as gold,
Yes.
right? So the question is, okay, so the answer to that is yes, gold transfers purchasing power across time. So a Roman citizen in ancient Rome with 1 ounce of gold or a denarius at that stage, I think it would be 4 denarius to 1 ounce. But their gold coins, 1 ounce of their gold coins, he could buy the same basket of things, sandals, a tunic, etc. Same basket of goods as what we can effectively buy today with an ounce of gold, right? So gold stores value across time. Okay? And the reason why this money is better than the paper money, or in the history we've used cowrie shells, we've used cigarettes in prisoner of war camps, we've used hides of cattle. The reason why gold is better than those is its scientific properties, right? So it is the only element on the periodic table of elements, the only metal that is effectively immortal, right? If you look at the noble metals, this is the one that doesn't get tarnished by oxygen. It's effectively immortal, right? It can exist forever. That's why you take Tutankhamun's golden, coffin that he came out of. That gold is still, 20,000 years later, that gold is still the same condition. And it's also plentiful, found everywhere in the world. So, and then thirdly, it takes a lot of resources, of human resources, to mine this out. And it's tough to mine a lot of it.
So that gives it value.
So that scarcity,
yes,
and that immortality, right, means that over 5,000 years, human societies all over the world have realized, when we look at all the things that God gave us, all the elements in the world, in the universe, this is the one that has the best characteristics for money. And that's why this is just the best money. So you could create other pieces of paper, we can bring the cow shells, but if somebody can use this money, they'll always want to use this as money. Or eventually, the market allows people choose to use gold as money.
That's really interesting. I watched a documentary, and I think it was due to the fact that you told me about it, and I watched it about fiat currencies, and they said if you start with the ABCs, with the alphabet, you start with A, and you go through the fiat currencies that start with A, 100% of them went to zero. Then if you go to B, the same thing.
Yeah.
So any currency that you could mention in history has gone to zero and will go to zero.
Well, I think it's also engineered and designed like that, right? So, a paper currency, the state and the Reserve Bank, they have a monopoly to create. It's like a monopoly for electricity, for example. You've got the monopoly to issue money. And its intention is to drag value from productive citizens to the state, to the king. That's its intention. Back in the day, when, like feudal times, when there was a king, he would actually order and decree people to bring in all their gold coins, and he would clip edges off of it, right? And that was their method of taxation, right? They would skim off little bits and pieces off of the gold piece.
5%, 10%. I'm taking something.
Yeah. And then when they got smarter, like the Romans, they used to bring it in, smelt it, and put copper into the gold, and then send it back out. So the purity of the gold got worse. But anyway, fiat currencies are designed to go to zero because it's the only way you extract value from citizens to the king.
Sure.
Well, it's one method. That is an insidious sort of secret way to do it. So if you've got this piece of paper in your pocket, you're transferring value to the powers that be.
And you don't want to do that.
I think you want to keep your hard-earned profits and the fruits of your labor.
Not keep losing it. I mean, if you only had one left and it keeps getting less and less and less and less each year or each day, you will end with nothing. And what we actually want to do the opposite. We want to grow something because you need more and to provide for people.
Exactly. So you need to save into a money that's stable, all right, and you need to get rid of debt, from your life. You need good productive debt, but you need to save.
Leverage debt.
Yeah, you need to save into real money, into gold, and you need productive debt. Get rid of unsecured debt, which is the debt that gets pushed out into the world today.
Sure. And that would be to the detriment of a lot of people's finances, especially in a time like we are at the moment, where we have a lot of inflation. The interest rates are crazy. People are losing their houses due to that. That's a scary thought.
Yeah, I think you've got to protect yourself, just like you protect your family with a weapon. You've got to protect your wealth with the right tools, and gold is the right tool.
I think that was a really good explanation. Cool. Let me ask you. The title of the podcast is Challenge to Champion, and I know everyone has different challenges in their life and different aspects of their challenges, and some are still busy with their challenges. Can you think of challenge that you've been, or what has been your toughest challenge? It can be in business or it can be personal.
So I know, we've spoken privately about this a lot, and I try to think of how I would answer that if somebody actually asked me formally and something like this.
Yeah,
but I think
there you go. You have the opportunity.
So I'll try to make some notes actually on this question. But I think for me, I think there are two things. I think we can, we can speak from a perspective of a man. So I think generally, what are sort of the big challenges I've faced in life? I think more generally for men, it's going from being a boy to becoming a man, right? And I think that element it was hard for me was to take on and shoulder responsibility, right? To create order from chaos, to be reliable so that somebody can rely on you. I think those were hard. I think caring for others. I think being able to generate enough value and money so that you can care for people. I think those are the biggest challenges. More the general becoming a man type stuff, right? And overcoming getting hit in the face by brick walls, because we don't learn that when we're growing up and going from one grade to the next. It's all sequential and lovely, and you're moving forward in life. I think generally those were the hard things, and being under pressure and still being able to do that gracefully. Now, that element, I think I've personally struggled with that. I think there are a few things that if I look at my life and I try to I try to look at the things where I've earned and where I've failed, because the one thing I know is you fail all the time, far more than you succeed. You just got to make sure that you succeed big when you do succeed. Yes. Makes up for the failures. But I think for me there were two big things. Being an extrovert, feeling-based extrovert, I think emotional stability and being able to offer that emotional stability and commitment has in my life negatively affected me. I wasn't always able to be that. I wasn't always able to offer that, and I think I had to learn the hard way. I think what that is required, or what is required of a man in that regard. So I've definitely made those mistakes. I think the other big thing for me was, and relates almost to sort of not attaining your full potential in sport. For example, my potential in sport is fear and timidity. You know, I grew up where I was always winning, and it was easy to win. And then when things got,
Why was that? Was that because you were exceptional, or was that
I think in my
because the opposition weren't great, or why do you think
well,
that was?
I think it's, you know, it's probably a bit of both. I think I had some, you know, I had a bit of natural talent, and I think I hadn't faced maybe, you know, the right competition. But then when I started experiencing true adversity and loss, my default went to not digging deep and learning from it and learning to overcome. As a boy, it went into fear and timidity, and fear is crippling. Almost the fear of losing, and that natural fear actually of being embarrassed in front of other people, right? I think it is natural, but I chose and I stuck to that side. So in my life, I fear and timidity kept me from a lot of things. Kept me small, kept me thinking big. Kept me, you know, I was always looking at the downside of what am I going to lose? What's the risk here? Looking down the mountain and not up. So I think overcoming that, you know, overcoming fear and the fear of loss, and timidity, and gaining your strength as a man, that was big. And then also learning about stability emotionally was the other big thing. So for me, what you know, what yeah,
That was a perfect explanation, and I think that's brave to say, because I don't think I've felt the same way about it. I would try to lean into and get better and not find that fear. I think maybe younger people like me today, the fact that we put everything out into the open on a Facebook or an Instagram, I think that gives us a bit of a head start to that. I think people are not as shy. Maybe in personal scenarios they are more shy because of that. But I think a lot of people, they don't mind looking silly on a camera or doing something stupid or being out of place. And I don't know if that's necessarily a positive thing, or will that bite them later in life?
It's a good question. I think it relates to me to, like, how do you overcome that fear element, right? I think we grew up in the non-social media age, at least me. I think,
mostly me too.
So I can't vouch for that. Hopefully that was a good technique and mechanism to be authentic and put yourself out there. I think what helped me overcome it was, I think we've talked about this a lot, was that old Greek mythology, katabasis, you know, like that, the descent into the other world, or the fall, you know, being being hit and falling, you know, in life, to a lot, you know, in general terms we'd say, you know, rock bottom. So everybody has that rock bottom. Everybody has that big fall from grace. So that to me was the big teacher, and the thing that, you know, burns you clean and rids you of fear. So I think every man probably has his own story. I think you've always been well, at least since I've known you, you've always been a supremely confident guy. So I'd imagine you might have had other challenges. I don't know if this was something that really...
I have had, and that is, as you said, I was thinking about when you say you have experienced this, and we are both still at the age where this might still have been the small challenge.
Yeah.
That's the scary part. I mean, maybe the big challenges are still coming. And that is quite scary to me, because, as you say, I was confident. I was always very confident. I had more confidence than ability in most scenarios.
Okay.
And I think that was good for a lot of settings. but also bad for many others, because it got me into trouble. It got me doing things I shouldn't be doing. Um, it got me trying things that I shouldn't be trying, and I'm talking about sports and extreme sports and that type of thing. I've had a lot of close calls in my life. I think I'm probably like on my 6th life or something like that. So I have to slow down. But yeah, I think that confidence, it wasn't something that I worked at or anything like that. I just think that's just how it was. It might have been my upbringing and a lot of positive influence from my parents and telling me that I can do anything. You're able to do anything. My father always told me, or if my mother would ask him, Henny, can you do this? It's like, yeah, of course. Okay. Henny, can you run a marathon? Yeah, of course. I can. Can you outrun? Can you play this? Can you do that? And always he thought, yeah, I can do that, of course. If I just put a bit of time and effort into it, I can do anything. Yeah. And that is how I was brought up. So that's maybe a little arrogant, but that's how I always felt. I can really do anything. Okay. If I play you, if we play a game of pool, I think just soon enough. If you beat me now, soon enough I'll beat you. Don't worry about it. I have the potential to be better, and I don't know if that's arrogance or if that's confidence. I think there's a fine line.
Oh, isn't it maybe? I think there's a lot of grace that determines a lot in our lives, and maybe the element of like you are who you surround yourself with, the pride of 5 people.
Yes.
I think you had God gave you the right people around you to instill that confidence. So,
yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably it. But you did have the abilities. I think.
Let me tell you another thing. I think if I didn't have that much of confidence, I would have been crippled by the fact that I'm crippled. Okay. Because now, as my confidence has taken a big hit because of my situation and the fact that I can't do a lot of things now physically. And I think because my starting point for confidence was so high, I was able to take a knock and still come in with a good amount of confidence. I had way too much. But now it allows me to do this, to approach people still, even being shy about my condition and how do I look, how do I feel, all of these things. I mean, this is internal things that you battle with daily, but you need to overcome them. And I think maybe the fact that I had a really high confidence has played out for the better in this scenario.
But how did that, it sounds like I'm asking you the question now, but how do you overcome that katabasis or that fall in a stable, when you talk about emotional and stability, like I said, how did you do it? Is it a choice? Was it choosing the light, or did you have another way? Was it the people around you?
I think for me, there's a couple of aspects to it, and what I had to do is I had to decide I'm going to live. So that's the first decision. Okay, I'm going to live. Secondly, how am I going to live? Am I going to let this cripple me in every form, in every way, in every situation in my life? Or am I going to take it with a positive attitude and a challenge? And I think, we maybe when I think of that catalyze that you were talking about, it's like a descent and a rise. But we don't know how long that period at the bottom is. Yeah. And I think sometimes you're still burning. Yeah. You're still. But you maybe are strong enough to, despite the fact that you're still burning and that you're still in the catalyze, that you can still be an influence, be a positive influence. And maybe, I've been sad so many times the past couple of years. My wife, I mean, that is... I can tell you it's 100% of the fact that I'm able to be happy.
She?
Yes.
Okay. That's beautiful.
I know you know this. It's the most important thing. And I think that's why you shouldn't rush it. So she is one of the biggest reasons. Like I said, 100%. the fact that I have the confidence at this stage, that I'm positive, that I want to do things. It's very easy to fall into that trap of just being miserable, because that is an option, and a lot of people pick that option. But when I thought about it, okay, so there's two options. You were asking me about a choice. Was it a choice? And it was. I was sitting and I was thinking, well, this is the fact now. This is the situation. The one is I can have a positive outlook, maybe influence people, and still have a good time myself. The other option is being miserable, getting sympathy, maybe a sympathy vote, some care, some love because of the fact that I'm sad. But how does it look for me internally with that scenario? I don't think it looks good. And I don't want to be that father or that husband or that brother that has that approach to life. So it's a battle, and it's an ongoing battle. I think I'm on the descent out of the catabasis, but I'm still partially in it, and some days I don't like it. Gotcha. But that leads me to the next question. And why do you think we need to go through it? Why do you think we need it?
Why do I think we need it?
The challenges.
The challenges. I think we need it because as human beings, right, we were given this conscious mind and this ability to reason. And I think that with that gift, there's always a cost to every gift that you get. I think with that gift, you need to be able to use it you can either use it for good or for bad. But I do think that when you look at the duality of the universe, I think good always trumps evil. So I think God. I think if I look at the biblical story, it was about creating the kingdom of heaven, and that was all. Everlasting life, from a first century Jewish perspective, was to create heavenly or great living conditions on this earth for people. And I think when we say people, by extension as well, all living things and nature, I think all things, because I do believe God is love, and I believe that love is always nurturing and nourishing and growth focused. So why we go through the hardships, I feel, is that because it is so damn tough to be able to overcome the bad things, so that in order to create a good world, a good life, in order to push love out into the world, in order to look after a family, in order to produce value for the world, I think that you need to have the capabilities to do so. You can't. I remember a rugby coach at my school saying, you can't, no matter how, you can't put a donkey into a horse race and expect it to win. So I think that it builds the resilience and the character and gives you the tools and the ammunition to win at the battle, right? Because life is tough, life is suffering, like M. Scott Peck said, life will kick you down, it will break you. And the only way to sort of fulfill what I think we really are on this earth to do is to enlarge and grow and do good ultimately, and to defeat evil will require strong men, great rugby players. You need to be the All Blacks, you need to be a Springbok. So I think we go
physically strong, mentally strong, combination.
I think that. So that's a great question. Because I think, yes, I think that's why we go through it. I think mentally and physically, what I've learned is that leverage is the most powerful force in the universe. You can lift an elephant with a long enough, plank, lever, right? A long enough lever, and so I think if we look at our mental and our physical faculties, think we're made, you know, what, 70 something percent of water. I think physically we're strong, and you have to be strong to be able to withstand the physical nature of the world. But we can be broken physically easily. I think the lever that we have, the powerful element we have, is our mind, is our brain. So I think almost Pareto, we could probably say, 80-20. I think it's 80% our mental strength. I think that's the toughest one. The software inside, that's the real lever. Like, because I think Steve Jobs talked about humans as leverage, lever machines. We can't run as fast as a cheetah, or efficiently walk energy-wise like the animals, but we can build a bicycle which has the least amount of energy required to go sort of that distance. We can build a car that goes much faster than everything else. So we're tool builders.
We can manipulate things.
Yes, we can create levers, and that you can only do with your mind. So I would say 80-20, maybe 90-10. But the irony of it is that, just like a motor of an engine or a motorbike, and our brain needs a chassis, needs a strong chassis. It can be a V12 motor, but without a strong chassis, it ain't going anywhere. Yeah. So you need both.
I think also the physical aspect plays a big role in the mental aspect. I know you train really hard and you punish yourself, and I think that gives a lot of mental clarity, because you're not caught up with yourself and with excuses and the self-worth issues and everything that can get you sidetracked. So I personally feel, I also think the mental strength is more necessary, especially in my case. Yeah. But I think the physical strength empowers the mental strength.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Migration. All right.
Let's get back to asking you some questions. I want to learn from you.
Just like I'm the right guy to talk to.
I think I've known you for, what is it, about 6 to 8 years, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
And I've personally noticed you go through some stages in life.
Yeah.
And I want to find out at which stage you currently are at.
Okay.
Firstly, just to give a bit of background to this question that I'm asking is, I've been to your mansions in Groenkloof. You've taken me for rides in some exotic cars that you own. And currently, it feels like that has you've taken a bit of a change on the materialism front. How can you explain that to me? How do you feel about materialism and just working for things and gathering things and accumulating things? What is your thoughts about that and how the world is currently?
Sure, that's a great question. So I mean, my story was very much, almost stupidly the quintessential try to get rich. I was young, and what do you do with money? You try to buy the fastest car and the biggest house. So I think I've done that.
You accomplished that.
I think I did that, and I specifically remember not being happy with those things. Although
it's not due to them, do you think?
No, it's definitely not due to them. I think so. I still love fast cars. I still love wealth. I don't think that has changed. I think obviously part of my downfall, with I mentioned the gold mine. I think the story of ours is the first big test in my life. The first big fall was having partners in the business that wanted the business, and then having to arm wrestle and fight for that thing, and which invariably I lost that battle, and that meant a very real change in my lifestyle. I had to downscale.
You took a hit.
Yeah, you take a big hit. You take Yeah, yeah.
Do you know this the phrase where they say, when a man with money meets a man with experience, the
Yes.
man with the
Yeah.
experience leaves with the money, and the man with the money leaves with the experience.
Sure, yeah, and I think it's so true. I think that's why I think there's a rite of passage when you there's this book called Iron John, a story about men, and he talks about this boy that finds there's a wild man captured by a king, and he's put in a cage. I don't know if have you read this
No.
book. Anyway, it's a I think it's a Germanic old mythical tale. Anyway, it's a story about men, and there's this in the town hall. There's this rugged wild man that they capture from the wild, from the forest deep down in a lake, and the king puts him inside this cage, and the little prince, the boy prince, has this little golden ball, right? And he has this lofty idea of the world. He's got this golden ball, and it rolls into the wild man's cage, and the wild man takes it, right? And so he loses his golden ball, and it takes him. He goes back. I think, let's say, he goes back when he's at the age of 25 or 35, and he goes back to the wild man. The wild man says, "I'll give you this ball, but you have to let me out." All right. And so, well, at first he doesn't. He comes, goes away, and he comes back again. And then, at the age of, in his 30s, he gets there, and he lets out this wild man, right? So and when he does that, it hurts his finger really badly, right? And the point of the story is, so he loses what he coveted, like this golden ball, and the wild man takes it and says, "I've got it," right? Because he knows, and he's got the knowledge, and he's got the wisdom, and then he gets hurt as a result, right? But he opens the cage, lets out the wild man, and then the wild man says, "Come with me, into the forest, and I will show you everything that you need to know to become a man, basically, and I'll give you more abundance and everything." And so he learns to embrace his wild energy, his traditional manliness, and his masculine energy. And but during this journey, he also gets stabbed by the king's men. He gets his wound. They call it the wound, right? When he's riding away from them, they stab I think it was his leg or something. And so I think the point of that story is that we as young guys, was in that journey of becoming a man, in that hero's journey. You go up, and then you get hit really hard, and you get stabbed really hard, and you fall back, right? You fall back, and you go into the state of fear again. So, as it relates to, so I think it was part of my journey to get it all, and then to also have loss, and then to learn the things that the guys with the experience had, and to come back and revisit material wealth, and to say, all right, it has its place and it's good. I think there are things that I think there are motivators, right? I think it's good to enjoy the things that humans create on Earth. So I now have no problem with material elements, right? I think I did go through a stage you talked about where I almost wanted to strip myself of all material things. I tried to wear my oldest clothes. I had 3 t-shirts and 2 pants and like the oldest.
So was that like a decision? I'm gonna do this.
It was I think it was falling back into you talked about I think you said something about sympathy and being sad for yourself, victimhood, right? Yes. It was a decision for me, like it was a victimhood, sympathy, feel sorry for myself.
Took something from you. It wasn't,
and now
because of you.
Renounce all these things, and I think you learn the lessons, and you go through it, and you realize, okay, these things aren't bad, these things are good, but you have to understand how to make them, how to keep them, how to enjoy them. And also, I think one of the key things for me was not putting them above the stability, again, financial stability, that my loved ones would require, or my future kids or my future self would require. So, and don't use stupid debt to acquire these types of things.
Yes.
So I think I started from, I think I had a reset. I first went through the emotional, sympathy, victimhood thing, and then you build through it again, and you realize that, okay, I am good enough. I know, I've played, for example, the rugby analogy, I've played URC rugby or Super Rugby. I can do it again, and then you do it again, and then you realize, okay, then you now have control to decide what parts of those you want to acquire, when, and prioritize it. Because I think I would have, that is the best lesson I've ever learned going through that. So material things, I still love Steve McQueen, I still love James Dean, I still like fast cars, gold, and
do you have a better relationship with it now?
I have a better relationship. That's probably the best way to put it. So I do think, though, I think you've got to be careful where you put it, where you use it.
And how high you rank the materialistic things.
Yeah, and I think
according to other things in your life.
Exactly.
Relationships.
So I think I've learned that a balance sheet as a man is probably your number one. Your love relationships and your balance sheet. Strengthening those two things before you start adding the shiny things. And if you do those things, don't use unsecured debt to do it. That's use.
It's hypocritical to do that.
First a chest full of gold, a treasure chest full of gold before you started. I think that's. Yes. But every man to himself, right? Every man chooses his own path. That is my journey. That is my journey. Well, I mean, some guy. I think with that in place, I think you also have to swing and play big and not think small. So yes. I definitely don't. I don't want to drive in a bad car. I don't want a Honda. I don't want a small house. Those are not the things that make me happy. Wealth makes me happy. Nice experiences, good things, luxuries do make me happy. So in the past, I would sort of say, no, you should forget about that. But I now embrace who I am, and I like those things. So I should be doing more of those. Building a startup it takes a lot of hours. So.
It does.
I should get around to that. But yeah.
Let me ask you about the fact that the same as me and my brother, Henny, you and your brother Bastiat work together, and I've had the pleasure of spending a lot of time with Bastiat as well. Tell me about that relationship and that. Firstly, working as co-founders of this Troygold company that you've built, and then secondly, how has that shaped your relationship and bettered your relationship and stronger your relationship? And I think also, what according to you is the advantages that relationship carries, rather than you with a random business partner has?
I think it's a question, a good question in the sense of, sure. I have to reference men that are smarter than me, like Naval Ravikant, that Silicon Valley investor, angelist, founder, and I guess the new age in philosophy talks about building long-term games with long-term people, and that comes back to the power of compounding. Now we talked about compound interest. And so when you are looking to embark on a challenge or a tackle, whether it's building a viable business, a sustainable business, whether it's winning the Rugby World Cup, whether it's producing a good marriage, right? You want a positive outcome. And that positive outcome requires you to play asymmetrical games. Now, it's going to come back to family, I swear. So an asymmetrical game is where the upside is asymmetrically more than your downside. So you're almost covered on your downside. And if you win, you're going to win an exponential function, non-linear function on the downside. you're capping your downside, and and for that you need a team. We need a couple of things. You need compounding, you need people with skin in the game, and you need teammates that seek truth in every scenario. So you need somebody you can be truthful with at all times, and who wants to always seek truth in a scenario. Don't make it worse than it is, don't make it better than it is. Find the truth in everything, and then you can overcome all the challenges that a team would overcome. So what I was lucky with is, so my brother is, like I told you, he was like my father, and my grandfathers. He was already a great man. I learned from them. I learned from him, and he's a teammate that was given to me that already has the truth seeking, understands compounding, all right, and what was the other thing I mentioned?
He also aligns with your values.
Yeah. I think so. So the same culture, the same values, and that truth seeking allows us as because because we're brothers. I think we can say things to each other that you can't usually say to just
have true conversations.
You can have true conversations. You've also known that person. You've had that compounding from a young age. You've compounded positive outcomes with that person from a young age. So that combination means I can build a long-term game with this guy, and we can basically put our heads together, and I can trust him. Oh, loyalty and trust, and that's the biggest thing. So that is skin in the game. That he's got the skin in the game on my behalf as well. That is the third thing, skin in the game, for that upside, for that positive outcome. So I know we can work to win. I don't have to look around look behind my shoulder. So I've been fortunate with him, and I know a lot of brothers and a lot of families can't work together, and that's just I guess because of those three elements. So I've been lucky. I think it's not for everybody. I think it's been great for us. So long-term games with long-term people. He happened to be a long-term person, and I think you and your brother are similar. I think that's why we
we
resonated.
Yeah, both of us, and I think our brothers are also lucky as well. We all four of us play different roles in our businesses, and have found a way to work together and to have the companies being better than it would have been if we would have had different people together with us.
Complementary strengths.
Yes, of course. And I think maybe that is a big positive attribute, the fact that we aren't the same. I think in our business that's the best thing. The fact that me and my brother, we are totally different. The way we approach things are positive. You're laughing because you know Eni very well. And we're totally different, and that makes us stronger. Because I have weaknesses, his strengths are my weaknesses, and we level out with that. I think all of those topics that you mentioned are very true. Give me a bit of insight to Troygold. If someone liked what you're saying earlier, and they said, this makes a lot of sense, this guy's spitting facts, how can I
wax lyrical?
How can I acquire gold? What do you do? Do you buy gold and hide it in a drawer or on a shelf, or do you do it and put it in the bank? Do you do it electronically? What is the way to do it?
So Troygold is a fintech, but we call ourselves a gold neobank. It is a fintech company that provides banking and financial services like a bank would, right? And we do that in gold, in physical gold, and for gold owners, right? So if you think about a gold, what gold banking would be like, gold-based banking would be like, not fiat currency banking, and finance, but gold-based. So I should be able to go to this company and I should be able to buy from them, gold, or I should be able to bring my gold that I already have in my home, and I should be able to deposit it in there, right, or place it in there, or upload as we call it. And then they should be able to give me they should be able to give me liquidity or financial services, like give me a loan, or allow me to spend some value, or give me a card, give me a mobile application or a web application that I can go on and I can manage my investment portfolio and see it and see gold news or that kind of thing. So everything you can do with a bank, you should be able to do with it. And that's what Troygold offers you. So Troygold, you can buy, you can upload, you can buy or invest, you can upload in physical gold Krugerrands, you can borrow against it, right? And you can spend that value globally, right? So when you open an account, you go on the App Store or the Play Store, you search for Troygold, one word, you download the app, you open an account, it takes minutes, and then it's literally the simplest and fastest way for somebody to start investing in physical gold, right? In physical gold bullion. So this is gold Krugerrands in South Africa, bullion is gold Krugerrands. So we built a tech platform that allows you, that's the simplest and fastest way to get into physical gold Krugerrands. Then you're a gold investor, right? And then once you've got an account, once you're in there, you've funded your account, you've either invested or you've uploaded. We have an upload point, like a bank branch, effectively in Pretoria, in Cape Town, in Durban, and in Johannesburg. So you can go there, you can bring your gold and deposit it into your Troygold account. We then issue you with a Troygold Mastercard. It comes in this little sort of packaging that gets couriered to you. You activate it, and then you can also activate a credit facility. So effectively, it allows you to digitize and monetize your gold. So you can borrow against your gold cheaply, not unsecured credit from a bank that you borrow against your asset, okay? And you can also spend those funds then globally at 40 million places, anywhere, any merchants globally. So
you can also, if you say I have one of these, this is around about 100,000 Rand.
Yeah. I
can't give you 10,000 of this now. In your platform, you can.
Yeah, so when you upload your gold, we digitize it. So all the gold is digitized. It's we hold it in the world's most secure vault. The company is called Brinks Global, and it's insured by Lloyd's of London, so 100% insurance. We keep it next to the airport in a big vault, in the special economic zone there. So you digitize your gold, which means it fractionalizes it. So you can buy from 1 Rand and up, you can buy a piece of this coin, right? So it's fractional. So if you've uploaded your gold or you've bought gold, you can buy and sell any amounts worth, right?
Yes.
And you get an ownership certificate.
You don't have to have 30,000 for a Krugerrand or 100,000 for this coin. You can save 1,000 Rand.
Yeah, you can buy a percentage of it. So we usually have people that were, millennials, Gen X, even Gen Z that have never bought gold before. This is the quickest and simplest way to diversify your portfolio and get into the gold game is buy 1,000 Rands worth of physical gold Krugerrands with Troygold. Buy 2,000, 3,000. You can save monthly, and you actually build up. You can actually build up to a full ounce, and then you can, if you want it, you can just redeem it and we send it to you. So if you want your physical gold out of your bank, out of your Troygold account, you can do that as well. So I think what we're trying to foster is 3 things: good saving, people that so that you can save not in rands, okay, not in it's almost the alternative to cash in a savings account or a fixed deposit account, because cash in the bank over the long term has yielded you about, if you take Old Mutual did this study called long-term perspectives. You check it out online about our asset classes in South Africa. Cash is trash. Cash in the bank over the long term has given you 6, maybe 7%, where gold has given you 13.6% per year. It if you strip out inflation, it's giving you 4% a year in real terms, where cash in the bank in a savings account is giving you 0.7%. So it's almost 4 times better to save in gold than put cash in the bank. Okay, so that's the first bit. So good saving. So save not in paper-based stuff, but save in gold. And then good credit. So good spending. So when you borrow money and you want to use credit, and you want to spend, the pieces of paper, do it against your gold. Okay, at better rates. Right? And then thirdly, there is something we're working on when you're spending your card. And you guys can subscribe to our newsletter online or download the app. You'll get the news. We're building on a rewards thing where when you spend, let's say you spend, so it's like a roundup. So you get bonus. You get gold whenever you spend. You save in gold. Sorry, whenever you spend. So if I spend 55 rand and I swipe with this card, then it rounds it up to 60 rand, and 5 rand goes into more saving of gold. So as you spend, you're saving as well. So good saving, good credit, and healthy spending means automated saving effectively into gold. So those are the 3 things we're trying to do with Troygold. Open an account in minutes, fastest and easiest way to get into gold.
That's excellent. I am a user of Troygold. I've been following you guys from the start. And I really like what you've done with the company. You've been moving around quite a lot, and that is because of the company, right? Give us a bit of an insight to that.
Well, we started the company in Pretoria because we were here, but we're a tech company. We understood, in South Africa, I think we have a little bit of a Silicon Valley in Cape Town. Being Afrikaans, we felt. I think the Boerland was a good fit for us. So we have a team of developers that sit in Stellenbosch, and they, that's where we develop the code, we build the business, we build the product. We are now opening a Pretoria branch or Pretoria office, and that's mostly for our sales and marketing efforts. We've got a designer or 2 up here as well. So from here, I think from here it's a good logistics base for our upload points and our delivery points at the vaults in Durban, in Johannesburg, and Pretoria. And a lot of our clients are here. I think people up here also, we understand a little bit of the tougher side of South Africa, and the harder things, how hard economic times we're in. So I think once you feel it more tangibly than maybe there in the Cape, that's why we've seen a bigger demand and attraction, or traction up here. So we're good. We're glad to be expanding. We're opening up here, so we can be closer to a lot of our clients, to the majority of our clients, and just be better from a sales and marketing perspective, provide a better service. So we're going national, and then hopefully within a year we can maybe do something offshore. I think we've got some cool plans for that as well.
I think your business is really inspiring. I've seen it go from startup to something amazing, and I think it will grow exponentially from here. You've built a solid base, and that's what you need to have an exceptional business. Then I think we can continue chatting for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
But to consider the algorithm, I think we have to cut it there. And I'm going to surely have you on as a guest again later.
Thank you.
I think that would be amazing.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for inspiring us as well. You've said good things, but we've been immensely proud of your journey, and we actually look at what you guys are doing. And try to keep up. So thanks, Leroux.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Dane. We do have a bit of a sponsor. This is one of my friends' companies, Fearless. I'm one of the endorsees of this company, and they do amazing clothing. And we have a bit of a thing that we were pushing, keep pushing. That's like a theme in the company. They do gym clothing. It's a really cool brand. They have launched energy drinks, with real fruit juice blends and a lot of vitamins, and this is basically a healthier version of a Red Bull and a Monster and those types of drinks. So
Are they gonna? I hope they get into motorsport at some stage.
they are fearless. They have like motocross companies. They do jumping events. They do a lot of things in Botswana. They have a big blow up landings. They do backflips and Supermans and everything. This guy is going to be a guest on the podcast, Rudolf Pretorius. He is the ultimate extreme junkie.
Okay.
I think it's maybe a disease that he has.
That's great.
I'm not going to tell you what is what because I don't really know, and we're doing like a blind taste test.
Okay. And their names. Okay, this is Revive.
Yes, you can see what is in them. Yes.
And what does that one say?
Ballistic.
Ballistic.
This is like the Red Bull type of comparator.
Okay.
I think this is more like a vitamin water, and I can't remember what he explained to me, but I'll put a link for these. You can buy these currently on their website.
Okay. What's the
I promise you, it's going to be big. It's Fearless Energy. Fearless Energy.
How do you spell that?
Fearless is spelled with a FRLSS. I think that's probably some some infringements that they were trying to sidestep with.
So we're going to try some.
Yes.
Okay, great.
You have first pick of it.
You said this one was this one Revive. I'm going to go with
I think
Jungle
this
Punch.
this one is like a Liquizade, he said.
Okay. I'm going to go with Jungle
Okay.
Punch.
I'm gonna go with this one.
You're a good host.
Let's hope it doesn't.
So far, so good. Cheers.
Cheers. Let's hope it's decent.
That's pretty good.
Mine's pretty good as well.
I'm trying to think what I can compare
really
it with, but this one's almost, when we were younger, there was a Just Juice.
Yes.
This is similar to that taste.
This is very much like the flavor of Lucozade. Yeah, and I was not really a Lucozade. I don't know how you feel about sharing, but you.
That's good. I like the branding, by the way.
Yeah.
I should learn from these guys. Troy should learn from these guys.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good as well.
Yeah, not bad. Well, I look forward to meeting this guy.
Yeah, he's in Georgia actually.